What happened to Stoicism? Be Stoic. Stoicism. Stoicism. I am Stoicism. I think Marcus Aurelius and Seneca would be horrified. Just as printing more money devalues it in the economy, overusing words and concepts diminishes their value. The more popular an idea becomes, the more it gets picked up by the people, the further it gets from its real meaning. It's almost like that game of telephone you used to play as a child, where the original message started out clear, but as it went from person to person, it turned into something completely different. This is evident in books, movies, and concepts. For example, the Bible. I'm far from being the most religious guy in the world, but you can't deny that it has interesting teachings and reflections. The problem is that it's quoted everywhere, fit into any context, and that ends up inflating its value. Who hasn't argued, whether online, at home, or in daily conversation, only to have the other person suddenly quote a Bible verse that doesn't fit the discussion? This kind of thing happens all the time, but the truth is that these words end up being used much more as a shield than as wisdom. Often, the person doesn't know the true meaning of what they're quoting. They're hiding behind what they see as sacred, trusting no one will question them. He says this crap every day, I never understood what he's trying to say. And then it just ends up being this annoying thing. This exhausting repetition without any criteria or context just ends up making these words lose their meaning. Powerful ideas turn into empty phrases, deep concepts become cliches, and in the end, something that could have been meaningful becomes crude, predictable, and trivial. I'm telling you all this to say that Stoicism is going through exactly this process. The popularization of Stoicism has reduced this philosophy to mere motivational content or a cool label in the corporate world. And this is nothing more than a reflection of a superficial society that thinks less and less in an original way. Everything targets others. It's not enough to be yourself. You must present the ideal image of our society, which relates to my point to here. It's that pretentious spiritual person who pretends to be self-sufficient, but posts meditation photos online for likes. Those who notice these contradictions get a good laugh out of it. Their actions aren't aligned with what they claim to believe, and why? Because their opinions aren't really their own. They just take everything ready-made, recycled, chewed up by the world. These people don't use philosophical questioning, reflection, or investigation to form their beliefs. What matters is the image it conveys. Today we've reached a point where it seems more important to associate yourself with a well-regarded and trendy philosophy than to find something that truly makes sense to you. People choose their beliefs as if they were creating a character in a video game. I'll add a bit of Stoicism to seem balanced, a touch of Buddhism to look spiritual, and a dash of Nietzsche to appear deep. What's happening today? It's just that instead of philosophy being used to help you understand yourself, it's used to build an identity. As a consequence of that, original thinking has become an endangered quality in our world. And how do we fight this? How do we think originally in the world? In this sense, the most important thing we need to keep in mind is that to think originally, you need to stop consuming what everyone else consumes. You need to discover what truly interests you based on your unique perspective. I was always a terrible student and a slacker. I was never one of those who memorized concepts, dove into books, and studied the subjects because that didn't interest me. I did the bare minimum to pass the year. And today, when I look back in my experience, I don't see that in a bad light. On the contrary, because the philosophies, the books, and the concepts didn't come to me, I went to them. So the first time I came across Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, Alan Watts, and even Stoicism itself, it was my own personal search that led me to them. And when I look at my way of thinking today, I see that this was essential for me to develop a more original way of thinking, a more authentic worldview, and one that's more aligned with what truly makes sense to me. The series, The Key of the Three Dimensions, that I wrote is based on this process. My intention was to try as much as possible to destroy, or at least demystify a bit, this world we live in, so that we can feel more comfortable living our own truth. And now that I've released the series a few months ago, I've been receiving more and more positive comments. People said they began seeing things more purely and originally for the first time, that they were able to truly connect with who they are, understand what really matters in their lives, and make decisions without feeling intoxicated by fear, not by others. But going back to Stoicism, I guarantee that if you present Stoic phrases and ideas without mentioning the names of Seneca, Epictetus, or Marcus Aurelius, many of those who claim to follow Stoicism would reject those ideas. I say this because these thoughts might end up sounding like a lack of ambition or signs of a weak person. For those who look at it superficially, try this. Go up to one of those Instagram Stoics at a random moment and tell him he doesn't need to accumulate achievements to feel fulfilled in life. Wealth and status are unimportant, and obsessively pursuing them only makes you a slave to them and others' opinions. If you say that in a way where he doesn't notice the Stoic ideals in it, he'll probably give you a weird look and respond with something like this. That's talk from someone who's complacent, someone without ambition, but then you can show him these quotes. Or try saying that if someone insults him and he feels affected, it means he's giving too much power to others. If he still doesn't notice the Stoic traits in this way of thinking, he'll say he can't let anyone disrespect him, or that he'd be a coward if he didn't react. For the original Stoics, the true wise man stays unshaken by injuries and insults, as his inner strength makes him immune to external adversity. And what's my point? It's that these people who use Stoicism as a label don't really want to live by its ideas. And that's why, when you lay raw Stoicism on the table, without glamour, status, or the illusion it'll make you superhuman, all that charm and nonsense vanishes. Today's superficial ideals have been shaping a new strand of Stoicism, a strand that's a selection of fragments from the original version that have been distorted to meet the desires of young people eager for success in material things. Anyone who interacts with the corporate world or financial market likely knows what I mean. Stoicism became popular in this environment as a way to justify a lifestyle. Accept what you can't control. Don't let yourself be shaken. Be resilient. Phrases that practically became motivational mantras to endure daily life in these environments. And that's okay. What really impresses me is how people get stuck with this Stoic label and can't see anything beyond it as normal. When I try to explain to someone from the corporate world what I do, they immediately assume, oh, it's like Stoicism, right? And after hearing several people say that, I realize that what's behind this need to label is a constant search for validation, as if an idea could only be respected if it comes with a seal of approval. No one wants to think for themselves. No one wants to find their own justification for what they do. It's much easier to take a ready-made concept and use it as a shield to avoid any real questioning. And the most ironic thing about all this is that if we look closely, the fundamental principle of Stoicism is inner freedom. It's about being so sure of yourself that nothing from the outside world has the power to shake you. But when this idea meets today's focus on performance and validation, it gets distorted. Stoicism stopped being an internal process of strengthening and turned into an external manual on how to behave, on not caring about other people's opinions. It was turned into a way to become admired. Accepting what's beyond your control became a technique to be more productive and achieve better results. Every time I go on social media and see posts about Stoicism or short and long videos that promise those silly things, like 10 Stoic lessons to achieve success, it's clearer now that a philosophy meant to free individuals from attachment has been twisted into something for the egos of those seeking to conquer the world. And going back to that game of telephone idea I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if we put Mark Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus to see what the last person is saying in this game, they would probably have a good laugh. I am a Stoic.